There we go again, Junior. We're off on the road to Morocco. This taxi is tough on the spine.
Beats the bus, huh, Junior?
Beats me. Where we're going, why we're going, how can we be sure? I'll lay you 8 to 5 that we meet Dorothy Lamour. Off on the road to Morocco. Hang on till the end of the line. I hear this country's where they do the dance of the 7 veils. We tell you more, but we would have the censor on our tails. We certainly do get around. Like Webster's dictionary, we're Morocco bound.
Where is it exactly where we're going?
To a small village east of Rabat, at the foot of the mountain.
It is good.
What is good?
It is good to know where we are going.
The history of Morocco begins with the sea, the land, and of course the Berber, who have always been fine horsemen. But they have not always been Islamic. The first contacts with these people in recorded history are Phoenicians, Carthaginians, and of course the Roman Empire. It was only later that the Spanish and the French became involved in the country. But let's start at the beginning rather than in the middle. Let's start with the Roman Empire. This is the main road of the city, from the Tangier Gate, the north gate, leading down into the center of the city where the Triumphal Arch is located. Although this city was essentially the capital of the Roman province in the 2nd and 3rd century, it was actually occupied up until about the 18th century, and it was very much a functioning city up until the 7th century. These days, of course, we don't know where any one particular person lived. Actually, there are a couple where we do know who lived there, but most of the houses are now named after the mosaics which have been left behind. It's the mosaics which give the houses their name and which are Volubilis' primary claim to fame. Volubilis got the job as capital of the province not because it's the largest city in the province, but because it was loyal to Rome during a revolt. Tangier was the larger city but was not loyal. The town name Volubilis actually comes from the name of a plant that grows there, and that's the oleander. It's a corruption of the local word for oleander. The town's favorite son is Juba II. Juba II was, of course, the son of Juba I, who was the king of Numidia. Now, Numidia is a little bit to the east of Mauritania. However, Juba II had been raised in Rome by the imperial family. He married Cleopatra, not Cleopatra the Great, but Cleopatra that you might recognize. This Cleopatra was the daughter of Antony and Cleopatra of movie fame. Cleopatra Selina died, and Juba remarried. He married the former wife of one of Herod the Great's sons, and they later also got a divorce, and she in turn married another son of Herod the Great. So apparently she liked Herod the Great's sons quite a bit. Now, Juba II and his wife Cleopatra did have a son. Their son's name was Ptolemy II, and Ptolemy II does take control of the province after his father. However, Ptolemy doesn't live out a normal lifespan. He's murdered by Caligula. So the royal imperial family and North Africa and the people that lived in this particular city were intimately connected with people that you know from the movies, if no place else. Juba II also wrote a number of books. He discovered the Canary Islands, he discovered the plant called euphorbia, and he wrote a bestseller in Rome on a guidebook to Arabia. Now, economically speaking, Volubilis produced three things which were important. One was wheat. The Roman Empire needed wheat, and cheap wheat at that, and it directed the economy of Volubilis to produce wheat. But that's not really where they made their money. They made their money in two ways. One was in exporting exotic animals for the arenas in the Roman Empire. It's said that the local wildlife, especially lions and such, were extraordinarily depleted by the end of the Roman Empire. The other thing that this area produced, and it continued to produce well after the Roman Empire had gone into collapse, was olive oil. It's a primary product of this area, and olive presses are to be found in virtually every house in Volubilis. And the indications are that most of the people made most of their money in olives, and this was a wealthy town. We're going to be panning away now from this fountain and mosaic to show you really some of the industry which is right in some of the old houses. What we're zooming in on now is an olive press. Now this press is made out of volcanic rock, but the next one that we're looking at here, this is a more solid rock, and this is the kind of press which is in fact in use in this area today. Well, anyway, let's get back to the lions that I mentioned a little while before, the ones that are used so much in the amphitheaters. The last Barbary lion, species that was indigenous to the Moroccan area, was used in amphitheaters across the Roman Empire for disposing of Christians and criminals of various kinds. The last Barbary lion died in captivity in the 1960s. The last wild specimen had been shot about 30 years earlier. Legend has it that there was a king of Morocco who had himself been feeding wrongdoers of various kinds to his personal collection of felines as late as 1914. The last dissident to meet this fate was apparently offered a short reprieve by the king, but instead the dissident retorted, quote, "It's better to be eaten by lions than bitten by a dog." And the result was, of course, he was dispatched tout suite. The national park, the National Zoological Park in Rabat, got together with some other organizations and developed a breeding program with the descendants of the king's man-eaters, and now they do have an 80% pure Barbary lion. There's even some talk about a release program, but it's unlikely to be popular in Morocco. People in Morocco simply don't expect to meet lions up here in the hills. Now, incidentally, that water that you see on the mosaic, that's from the rain. The first couple of days that I was in Morocco, it did rain. This is the dining room from the House of Orpheus, and next we're going to the necessary room. This is the House of Orpheus. It's named after some of the mosaics that are here. But I brought you back to this room for a special reason. Of course, we don't know who actually owned the House of Orpheus, but we do know that they were probably party animals. The room that I'm in happens to be the vomitorium. And also the latrine is over here as well. When you got done finishing your business in the latrine, you had a special sponge that you would use to clean yourself off. I found this especially interesting. This is a picture of a mosaic of a Dulcitori who has won a prize. The prize is what we've just focused on. The Dulcitori is on a horse, although it looks a little bit strange looking. It is a horse, and he's supposed to be doing acrobatics off of this horse in a erratic matter, and apparently he was pretty good in order to win the prize. This next picture is of a manhole cover. Now, everybody knows that the Romans were great engineers, but this manhole cover is probably the most decorative and interesting manhole cover I think that I've ever seen. While strolling through the ruins, I did run into some of the wildlife. I do believe that this particular one is probably poisonous. All of this usually brings up the question of what actually happened to Volubilis to do it in if it has survived into the 7th century speaking Latin. And the answer is that it was visited by Muley Idris, who was a great-grandson of the Prophet Muhammad. He had been recently run out of the Middle East because of the split between the Sunnis and the Shia, and he established his own version of the religion at Volubilis. He didn't like living at Volubilis because of the Roman artifacts that were there. And so what he did was he moved his settlement just a couple of kilometers away and established his own community. The next big event in Moroccan history is the coming of Moulay Ismail as the leader of the country in the late 1600s. And he established the first imperial city at Meknes. This happens to be his mausoleum that we're looking at now. Moulay Ismail is said to have had about 500 wives and concubines and 800 children, and he was supplied with labor from 25,000 Christian prisoners in addition to 30,000 common criminals, and he also had 12,000 horses in his stables. Those 12,000 horses were fed from grain from this granary, which lost its roof in the earthquake of 1755. You'll get a pretty good idea of what the scope of it is. Part of the granary has actually not lost its roof, and part of it is underground, and we're going to be taking a look at both of those as well as this portion that has in fact lost its roof. This granary held enough grain in it to keep those 12,000 horses fed for a year, according to my guidebook anyway. One thing that my guidebook also said was that this particular site is very popular with filmmakers. Martin Scorsese shot part of The Last Temptation of Christ here, and also in nearby Volubilis. The underground portion of the granary looks very much like this portion above ground, but it'll be much less easy to see because there's much less light, of course. The other twist about the underground portion that our guide told us was that there were 30,000 Christian slaves that were kept down there. However, my guidebook has a slightly different take on that. It says, locals will tell you this is a prison in which thousands of Christians, mostly captured by corsairs operating out of Saleh, which is part of Rabat now, were held captive as slave labor on Mullah Ishmael's building schemes. This story has largely been discredited, but the legend dies hard. And you can see that these dark granaries, underground granaries, do look very much like they ought to be dungeons. So what were all those slaves doing? Well, they were carting off blocks of Volubilis back to Meknès to build the new imperial city. When the old reprobate died, apparently everybody that was hauling those stones just kind of dropped them where they were, because travelers in the 17th century reported that a line of marble between Volubilis and Meknès, where the couriers had dropped them on the route when they heard that the guy was dead. You can still see remnants of Volubilis around the city of Meknès and in the mausoleum that we were just in. You can also see remnants of Roman ruins in Rabat, which is another of the four imperial cities, at some of the modern monuments. Here we see a series of columns. These columns were likely taken from Volubilis or perhaps from Sala Colonia. Sala Colonia is the old Roman city that Rabat is built over. And this is the wall in Rabat that surrounds Sala Colonia. Sala is also the basis of the town Salé, which is just about a kilometer or so away on the coast, where the Salé pirates came out and captured all those Christian slaves. Nowadays, about the only thing that lives in Sala Colonia is the storks, and that's one of the stork nests there.
The right hand side of the minaret, Islamic epoch, 14th century, with the minaret with 15 meters.
In the background there is the town of Salé, where the Barbary pirates were. While I was at Sala Colonia, I ran across the old pool. This pool is connected to the river, and curiously enough, it has some eels in it. And there's a story that's grown up amongst the locals that if a woman who is infertile comes down here and feeds the eels some boiled eggs, some hard-boiled eggs, the egg whites, that she'll become pregnant, and so that's what how the eels apparently make a living. The next imperial city is the commercial capital of Fez, where everything is made, or almost everything anyway, and much of it in the old style. I'd like to read a letter here. And this letter is written by Edmondo de Amicus, who was apparently on a diplomatic mission from Italy in the 1880s, and he's describing his experiences in Morocco. His book is called Morocco, Its People and Places, and specifically this little section is about Fez. The first impression is that of an immense city fallen into decrepitude and slowly decaying. Tall houses which seemed formed of houses piled one upon another, all falling to pieces, cracked from roof to base, propped up on every side with no opening save some loophole in the shape of a cross. Uphill and down, encumbered with stones, the ruins of fallen buildings, twisting and turning at every 30 paces. Every now and then a long covered passage dark as a cellar, where you have to feel your way, blind alleys, recesses, dens full of bones, dead animals, and heaps of putrid matter. Dust so thick, and the smell so horrible, the flies so numerous, that you have to stop and take breath. In half an hour, we have made so many turns that if our road could be drawn, it would form an arabesque as intricate as any in the Alhambra. Here and there we hear the noise of a mill, a murmur of water, the click of a weaver's loom, and chanting of nasal voices, which we are told come from a school of children, but we see nothing. We approach the center of the city. People become more numerous. The men stop to let us pass and stare astonished. The women turn back or hide themselves. The children scream and run. The larger boys growl and shake their fists at a distance. We see fountains richly ornamented with mosaics, arabesque doors, arched courts. We come to one of the principal streets about 6 feet wide and full of people who crowd about us. There are 1,000 eyes upon us. We can scarcely breathe in the press and the heat, and move slowly on, stopping every moment to give passage to a Moor on horseback, or a veiled lady on a camel, or an ass loaded with bleeding sheep's heads. To the right and left are crowded bazaars, in courtyards encumbered with merchandise, doors of mosques through which we catch a glimpse of arcades and figures prostrate in prayer. The air is impregnated with an acute and mingled odor of aloes, spices, incense, and kif. We seem to be walking in an immense drug shop. Groups of boys goes by with scarred and scabby heads. Horrible old women, perfectly bald with naked breasts, make their way by dint of furious imprecations against us. Naked or almost naked madmen, crowned with feathers and flowers, bearing a branch in their hands, laughing and singing. We go into the bazaar. The crowd is everywhere. The shops, as in Tangier, are mere dens opened in the wall. We cross, jostled by the crowd, the cloth bazaar, that of slippers, that of earthenware, that of metal ornaments, which altogether form a labyrinth of alleys roofed with canes and branches of trees. Now, this ends the 1880s letter. The Lonely Planet continues. Essentially, the only way in which Fez has changed since then is that the moderate affluence of Fazis now enjoy has enabled them to restore many of the buildings and clean up the streets. However, that hasn't radically changed the heady, strong atmosphere of the Medina. Fez is still worlds apart from anything you will find north of the Strait of Gibraltar. This building is an ancient caravanserai, a place where they used to bring in the caravans and unload them and examine their wares. This place hasn't been refurbished for probably a couple of centuries or so. This next one is a more modernized example of a caravanserai. This particular one also happens to double as a museum for woodworking equipment. All the rooms are where the just off of the corridor where the exhibits are. Down there at the bottom you see the scales where they would weigh the merchandise coming off of the camel. This next series is of a pottery factory. This is using local clay, and the potters that are working the local clay are using foot-operated pottery wheels. These two little fragments of ceramic are going to be used in a mosaic. That's partly what they make in this factory, is mosaics. The colors being applied change radically when the pot is fired. This next factory is a tannery, which is right in the middle of town. The process here is pretty strictly medieval in terms of its organization and the way that it's handled to a large extent. The ingredients in those vats down there, they include pigeon poo, cow urine, fish oils, animal fats, brains, chromium salts, and sulfuric acids. Safety conditions for the workers are strictly medieval. We're moving now from Fez further south, where there's a series of kasbahs. Now, kasbah just means castle, and if you're like I was, I thought that was more of a commercial district. This is the kasbah at Rabat. It's a nice, modern Greenwich Village type of operation, but this is something that's a little bit more classic. It's simply a place where the nobles have moved out and a number of people have moved in to take over their space. There may or may not be a commercial district, or if there is a commercial operation, it may be fairly small. Incidentally, coming up is a picture of my guides to this particular kasbah. While going over the Atlas Mountains, we ran into two local denizens that tried to snatch some food from us by getting into the car.
Can you speak? A small monkey? Two small monkeys.
Minerals.
Where? Just in front of us.
Oh.
Oh, yes! Oh, are those Barbary apes?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, aren't they interesting? See, I haven't been to Gibraltar, so I've never seen these.
It's coming.
Oh, oh, oh. Oh! Oh, look at your face. Oh! Oh my goodness, it will climb in the window.
No problem.
Oh!
A few hours later, we were down in the Sahara Desert at Erg Chebi. Now, Erg is the word that they use for a really big mountain of sand. And this sand is very soft and very, very loose. It's when you walk around in it, it's very easy to get up to your knees on it. We were staying there overnight, so we would see both the sunset and the sunrise, and we did a camel ride as well.
They have some nice nuts. Peanuts. Good peanuts.
Hello.
Yes.
Like it, Sahara?
Yes.
You are welcome.
Wonderful.
Yes. Thank you.
Today, like it? Yes. Like it.
Very much.
Today, like it. Because
I mean, he said to me, that you are lucky today because
Oh, dust storm.
Yeah.
Oh. And then do people have to leave?
wind blowing.
Oh, really?
We got up before dawn for our camel ride. The camel you're about to see is the one that I'm on. And one of the things that you might want to notice is that when we get off the camel and we start walking around in the Sahara Desert, you can sink very far down. It's very difficult to climb the dunes, and this is because the sand is so very, very fine that you have a tendency to sink down into it. Hello? I think they've moved to town. We're moving now into the Todra Gorge. Now the Todra Gorge was carved out of the hillside by a very small stream. At no place is the stream deeper than ankle depth. It feeds a huge palmerae, so you can see that a relatively small amount of water makes the desert bloom. This gorge is important because it is one of the most dramatic landscapes in this part of the Sahara. The gorge is at its highest about 1,000 feet above the river floor there. Many of the towns in this area got their start as French Foreign Legionnaire forts guarding the mountain passes.
Bring him in.
I am the commander. What do you want?
Does the commander wish to surrender now or not?
Surrender? Not while I have a man left.
By the grace of Allah, this is your last chance.
You have my answer. Go!
Then the bones of your beloved legionnaires will lie bleaching in the desert sand.
Get him in. He's under a flag of truce. Now then, go back to your scavengers.
You can expect anything at any time.
The city is a major stop along the caravan route between Marrakesh and the Sahara Desert. The name of the town is Eight Bin Hatu, but Eight Bin Hatu hasn't seen a caravan in some time. These days, much of the money made by the people in the town is from tourists and even more strikingly from the movie industry. This has been a movie set for a large number of movies, including The Man Who Would Be King, Jesus of Nazareth, and of course the very famous Lawrence of Arabia was shot here. More recently, Gladiator was also shot here. The pen where the camels are normally would have been kept during the filming for Gladiator was turned into the North African gladiator ring that they used in the movie.
No.
Okay. How do we go this way? Yeah, this way. Up. Slowly.
So, what is this Chinese lion doing in Morocco? Or for that matter, what about this Egyptian stuff that you're about ready to see? Well, the fact of the matter is, we're at a movie studio. They make movies in Morocco, and they don't make movies just about Morocco. It's about a lot of exotic locations. We tried to get a view of the studios, but they were closed for the day because they were shooting. So we went on to Marrakesh, and this is the city wall at Marrakesh.
This is called the skin market.
Now, Marrakesh is a modern city with 3 McDonald's. This is one of them.
We're in Marrakesh, Morocco. The Jama El Fin is the world's greatest show, and you'll enjoy it, I'm sure.
This is the Jama El Fina, and what we're looking at right now are water cellars. Of course, they don't make much money selling water anymore, but they do get their pictures taken with the tourists quite a bit. The square is filled with acrobats and water cellars and fortune tellers and all kinds of entertainment. And just to the side of the square, there are the souks. So if you get tired of the entertainment, you can go out and do shopping. If you get tired of the shopping, you can come back and get some entertainment. This lady's apparently looking for a dance partner. Big entertainment in the square, however, is frequently snake charmers. I'm going to spend a few minutes here with one.
I'm busy. Well, we're back to the water cellars now. I'm going to be taking a walk through the crowd here just for a few seconds. And one of the things that we're going to go through is a couple of guys that have got some Barbary apes out here on the square. But I don't think that they're doing very much with the apes other than just kind of showing them off and generally mistreating them, I think.
Okay, thank you. Thanks again, son. Thank you very much, Ali.
One more, hey, look, one more.
Thank you very much.
Now, one of the things you might think about this square is that it's purely for tourists, and there's no doubt about it that tourists do like this. But if you take a look at the crowd is mostly local people, and the storytellers like this one that you see here are not telling stories in Spanish or French or English. They're telling stories in Arabic and Berber, and that's how they're keeping their crowd. Other than entertainment and shopping, also out on this square, there's a lot of fast food, but especially orange juice vendors. Orange juice does a big business here. The Fantasia is where we are now. And the Fantasia is basically a horse show. Although it has a touch of Disneyland with it, I think you will enjoy it also. In case you hadn't guessed, this is a dinner theater. And at this dinner theater, they can set 20,000 people. The name of the place is Chez Ali.
this presentation wasn't done in English, so I'm a little bit foggy on exactly what the plot is. But it seems that the theory is that the local princess is getting married to Aladdin or some such person, and this is basically the wedding party. Now, at about this time in the presentation, the wedding party departs. The bride and groom depart on their flying carpet.
As the party winds down, guess what music they use to pipe them off the field? That concludes Morocco. From here we fly back to Casablanca and home.
What about us?
We'll always have Paris. We didn't have, we lost it until you came to Casablanca. Now. He's looking at you, kid.
And that's for your safety.